We're here to present the audit. Sorry we're kind of late. We're making the copies. The copies should be on their way. I just got one copy of the main audit, but we got the other two audits to present.
Do you have something that we can follow along?
Yes. Yeah, but we're going to start with the other one. First of all, first I would like to thank Letty and Sam because they helped us a lot to finish the report. And Mr. Guillermo Reina is going to do the presentation, and I'll be here. So we're going to start with the bridge and. Okay.
Good afternoon once again. Honorable Judge Vera and members of the Commission, it's a pleasure to be here before you. Once again, for the record, the firm of Oscar Gonzalez and Associates CPAs. My name is Guillermo Reina. I was the lead auditor on this engagement. We had a total of about 7 auditors working diligently on this audit. It brings us great pleasure to report that we actually conducted and completed the audit for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017 here. Insofar as the audit is concerned, just for the record, there are 3 audits that were conducted. We conducted the audit of course, the county-wide audit. We conducted the audit of the international toll bridge system, and we conducted, lastly, the gas system audit.
You don't have the other one?
Well, sir, at this point, we had some issues with regards to the actual binding of the report, and
I know we're in a hurry, Judge, but it's gonna be kind of hard.
Whatever you don't want, the thing is, we need to send it out.
well, certainly, our understanding is that one of the grantors, the CDBG through the department, HUD, it requires that the report. We worked as hard as we can. Once again, we had 7 auditors working on this, and we were working day and night. Again, it was a collaborative effort from the county auditors department. Sam and Letty did also work very diligently as well. But nonetheless, insofar as the reports, and quite honestly, we typically don't present a detailed report based on our professional experience, and we conducted the audit, so we'd like to give you an overview, a summary, and some highlights that we feel are pertinent as it relates to the audit. So may I continue, Judge?
How long do you take to get a copy for each one?
We actually have a runner coming as we speak, and we'll be providing an additional 10 copies, Commissioner.
Okay, you have a runner coming right now?
Yes, that's the case.
I know, maybe some of the commissioners don't want to say anything, Judge, but it's kind of impossible to work on something that we can't even see.
Okay. Sure. And insofar as, again, with respect to the 3 audits, as the bridge, we will begin with the bridge. In fact, let me indicate, out of the 3 audits that we conducted, one of the main components of the financial statements, of course, we're here to report on the financial position and the results of the operations for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017. And an integral part of the financial report is also the auditor's independent opinion on all of these 3 audits that we conducted. So insofar as the 3 audits that we conducted, we were able to render unmodified opinions, which are clean opinions. So that really speaks highly, again, of the county, from the governance perspective, and then from the at the county auditor's department. They really worked really hard this year on this audit, and so we were able to satisfy ourselves as to the adequacy of the financial statements. So we were able to issue a clean opinion. So that's very positive, and that's positive from a perspective of not only the numbers contained in the report, but also when you send your reports to grantors, of course, rating agencies and the unmodified opinion or the clean opinion is very important. So that's the main point I wanted to point out. So we included unmodified or clean opinions for all three of the audit engagements. Insofar as the international toll bridge audit, I believe you all have a copy, and I'm gonna go ahead and refer to. Yes, sir.
An unmodified opinion, is that the same that before it used to be an unqualified?
Unqualified opinion. Yes, sir. That's the case.
Is that the same rating that?
That's the case, but under the new generally accepted accounting principles and new pronouncements, industry pronouncements, they make changes. But to answer your question, yes, the old unqualified opinion became an unmodified opinion, and so that is essentially still the same opinion, which is the clean opinion, the cleanest opinion that could be rendered in conjunction with audited financial statements.
Just to clarify, you know, because at one time it was an unqualified opinion, now we have.
Yes, I don't have a copy
The same thing.
toll. Do we have an extra copy of that, please? The main statements contained within the report that I'll direct your attention to are going to be pages 3 and 4, which is your statement of financial position, or as you well know, the balance sheet. And then on page 4, the results of the operations, the revenues that were realized or received from border crossings, and then also the expenses associated with the operations. And as a reminder, this fund, actually, the bridge and as well as the gas, they're proprietary funds, so they're handled unlike the other governmental activities of the county. They're supposed to have a profit motive, but certainly it's very difficult. It's a fine line between trying to generate a profit and just work with the citizens and all the stakeholders involved. But in the case of the page 3 of the report, again, the statement of position, and there's a comparative balance sheet next to it. You'll see really that there's really no big significant change from last year, 2016, to fiscal year 2017. There was a decrease of approximately 170,000, but I will tell you that within the operations, you've got to factor in depreciation. That's really a non-cash type item. So depreciation, if you look at page 4. If you want to flip between page 3 and page 4, you'll note that depreciation expense for the year was 194,000. So when you back out depreciation, you're looking at, for cash basis, you're looking at a positive 20,000. So that's not bad, and we think it's the overall bridge operations held constant, as we would probably characterize it as. There was no other significant activities. I will tell you that at the end of the year, this is one of the main liabilities as part of the overall operations. As we all know, you all partake and share the operations with the city of Roma, local municipality within the boundaries of County of Starr. And you'll note this is something that's worth referencing. The amount due to city of Roma was $1,099,916 at the end of last year, or the prior year, 16, as compared to year 17, $1,266,681. That was a difference of about 165,000 larger in terms of the amount due to Roma. So there's still a substantial amount due, but that's part of the annual operations. And of course, the county needs to do everything possible within the short run, the next 2 to 3 years, to try to minimize the amount due at the end of a fiscal year.
Let me interject there.
Yes, sir, Judge.
What we did this year for the audience and of course the commission,
Yes, sir.
Roma participates with the county. They have 35%, we have 65%.
That's correct.
In the budget this year, we did almost 50/50. So from our 65, we gave them an additional 15%. So hopefully that will start dwindling that amount.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
don't know how much, but it's the best we could do this go around.
That's a management decision, and we appreciate the comment, and certainly we embrace that decision. It's important to bring down that liability. And again, the overall operations. There's notes to the financial statements within this report, but of course the notes are an integral part. It's basically a narrative describing and supporting each of the main numbers. But overall, I've given you net rundown, that the overall operations of the bridge have kept constant, and that significant liability there is the city of Roma, but the county has taken steps and measures to address that here within the short run. That's basically the presentation that I had for the toll bridge. Do you have any specific questions about the report?
On this audit,
Yes, sir.
and what was budgeted, was the commissioner's court approved or anticipated to have the revenues come in versus the expenditure, was there a plus or a minus?
There is no budget actual comparison in this presentation, sir. That let's see that.
Know that if we had,
So I don't recall off the top of maybe perhaps Sam or Letty could shed some light as to the overall budgeted to actual situation. We more so focus on the report. This one is a.
I thought we would have something here in this audit that would show us.
Commissioner, it's gonna be on the county, it's gonna show on the county audit.
There are budget comparisons for the
Yeah, but
general fund and the road and bridge funds and the proprietary funds on the overall one. But certainly, we don't have copies of the report before us.
if you're gonna compile what the losses and the minus on the whole county, we should be able to detect or at least know, which department came under or over.
Absolutely. There is a very detailed, comprehensive, in fact, the budget actual comparison for the general fund on the countywide. It's about a 10-page document. It's very extensive, very detailed at the detail level. And you'll certainly see that in the report that's forthcoming with a runner, sir.
Yeah, in the general audit, that's where it shows how the gas did, how the bridge did, how.
In comparison to budgeted amounts, right?
Compared to budget.
Right. And what we present in these smaller reports, the mini reports, is obviously just the actual activity. But as I indicated, there's a lot of consistency between those. We can look at that once those reports come in. We'd certainly like to cover those as well. Is there any other questions that we could entertain at this point?
So I guess the main concern is the amount owed to the city.
Right, which is a liability that's been there year in and year out. The amount increased a little bit, but nonetheless, it looks like it's being addressed.
Hopefully, well, this year that we're in, it'll show some gain. And one of the reasons that it crept up so much, as far as we've never had that. Usually, they owe us or we owe them a couple of $100,000.
Yes, that's correct.
This one started when the instability in Mexico started, because it was very difficult to estimate the revenues of the bridge. We didn't know if it was cost, it was warrant, whatever, so we had to be conservative. And when you go conservative, then the revenue projected is very low.
Absolutely.
35% of something low is.
Absolutely, sir.
If it comes in higher, then we owe Roma because we pay them monthly as we go.
That's
So
correct.
year we again, try to be conservative, and that's how come it's
I
declining.
understand that, sir.
But hopefully now, we'll work on it.
I have conducted audits of the city of Roma for about a decade, going back a few years, so I'm very familiar. That's exactly on point. Your comments are duly noted, sir. Those are the main things, but overall, it's a positive report, and more importantly, a non-qualified opinion, which means that the books of record are also being maintained properly. We can't say that about a lot of entities, but in this case, we are formulating that opinion. That's all we have for that particular audit, the International Toll Bridge for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017, Judge and members of the commission. Absolutely. Have those been forwarded to you? Again, the gas system audit was also for the same fiscal year, and as I indicated just shortly ago, we did render an unmodified opinion, and which again is a favorable thing. And again, the report itself also has the same, it's structured the same as the other report. And pages 3 and 4 really contain the meats of the report, the balance sheet, and the income statement. And on the page 3 of the report, you'll see the overall position comparison, 2016 and 2017. I will tell you that the overall financial position of the gas system entity has improved, but now at the beginning of last fiscal year, it was reporting a negative fund balance or negative net assets of about 700,000. So y'all were able to improve though this fiscal year to the tune of about $120,000. So that's favorable. There's still a ways to go, and of course, when we visited and audited that particular department or that system, one of our questions is, again, as I alluded to you all earlier, it's supposed to be it's supposed to have a profit incentive type program, but it's a fine line. You can't just go in and raising rates on an annual basis. But certainly, I know that within the last fiscal year, something was done, and rates were adjusted, not significantly, adjusted somewhat to be able to balance between the needs of the citizens and the needs of the county, and also to try to improve the overall financial position of the gas system. So you're in a better position than it was. It's still reporting a negative fund balance of $586,000, but needless to say, something was done in that fiscal year. And as far as the operations, the overall operations, it generates a little under $1 million, about $990,000, and then overall expenses are pretty similar. You'll note at the bottom of page 4, the change in net position. There's a positive $120,543, and that also factors in depreciation, but this one has very small depreciation because of approximately $5,700. Most of the assets associated with that system, it's an older system, so most of those assets have been fully depreciated, so you can't depreciate too much more. So that particular change in the overall operations is really a cash base, so $120,000 that went into the net assets and improved the overall financial position of the gas system. Those are the main things that we noted.
Let me again, shed a little bit of light on.
Yes, sir. Please do.
On the bottom line. Some years back, we had the gas and the transfer station under one department, one manager, and then it got to the point that we really weren't doing service to either department, so we decided to split it. The negative that was in that department, both the landfill and the gas stayed at the gas.
Yes, sir.
And that's the reason this number is so big.
Okay.
But we did adjust rates and, on gas, and we made some adjustments, and hopefully that will continue coming down.
Absolutely. We certainly see that, we anticipate that, and we see that forthcoming as well from our perspective of our review of financial statements. And we do analytical procedures and look at ratios, so on and so forth, to be able to satisfy ourselves. So we certainly see that in the financial statement. So, and again, this particular report also includes the notes to the financial statements, which are narrative descriptions that support some of the underlying numbers on the different elements, cash in bank, so on and so forth, accounts receivables, the liabilities that exist, so on and so forth. The fixed assets is a breakdown as what's in equipment, what's in the systems, what vehicles, so on and so forth. And in fact, as a matter of fact, why don't we, since we got a little bit of time, why don't we look at capital assets on page 8. Page 8 will give you a breakdown of all, note 5, capital assets. It gives you a breakdown as the amount of land, the building and improvements, the gas distribution system, furniture and equipment, vehicles. And if you look at the last column, the balance at 9/30/2017, you'll see that the total cost of the assets for this system is a little under $800,000, $798,000, with almost full depreciation of $711, close to $712. So you only have $80,000 of depreciable basis left for these assets, which sometimes when you're looking at these from our perspective as accountants and CPAs and whatnot, we look at it, and when assets are fully depreciated, that means those systems are getting outdated, and perhaps be thinking of long-range plans to continue updating, whether it be your vehicles, your gas systems, or partial or combinations of parts thereof. So that would be a recommendation we'd like to make.
And we are. Last year we
Yes, sir.
started, this year we did again, with installing new lines.
Yes, sir.
Where we have the old, I guess clay or maybe not clay, but PVC, we're going into the
PVC and steel.
steels, what we have, we're replacing all those.
Yes, sir. Okay. So those are the main components of the report. That gives you a bird's eye view, but we're hitting on the main points there based on once again, our experience and knowledge base and what we've seen and comparability with other entities and expectations. So that, again, moving forward with that, it's a negative fund balance, but you're working forward, which is a positive thing. Any questions or any additional comments about that particular audit? Again, the third one is the overall countywide. I would like to share with you, well, if I may, Judge, we as part of the audit, or can we begin that other component, or do we want to wait?
They would like to make a lot of copies, so.
Go ahead and do it. We have to get this thing going. We'll get a copy when they get here tomorrow.
Well, we need to do it today, the 31st.
Even though we're gonna look like a rubber stamp commission, but we'll get it done, I guess.
And let me.
And that's hard to swallow.
Let me explain that, in defense of Mr. Gonzalez and the associates, we really tightened on them to get it done today. They had said they wouldn't get it done today because of the
Yes, sir.
delays we had, with the audit, with us getting the information to them. As a favor to the county, I guess they work day and night to get to the point that they are right now, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, Judge.
Even though we would have liked to have the copies, we realize it's not your fault.
Making the copies, but you only report one, Starr, they're on the way. We got 9 copies, and there's, here, copy, and send it to the agency. The main reason why you wanted us to do it, because you wanted to protect your record.
Right, if we don't get it in today, we lose our CDs.
And I remember you told me, so I told you I wasn't gonna make it, but we try our best. Like you said, we really work day and night.
I know y'all did, and we thank you for that.
And your staff helped us a lot. If it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't.
But it does take everyone working together, and we appreciate it.
But like you said, we gave them our opinion, your system, whatever we asked for, they got it. And,
It's gonna be a long presentation, right, Joe? It's gonna be a long presentation. If we're gonna approve it, if I go through it,
Actually,
they disapprove.
not, Commissioner. You've seen the nature of our presentations. We focus on highlights and summative explanation. We don't like to go, I mean, we've done CAFRs, which are sometimes 200 pages. We focus only on the things that are priorities. We're not here to be here for hours. We just want to tell it to you the way it is, and
But my concern is the status of the county, where we at financially,
Right,
that's my main concern. And we can look over the
later
rest
on.
of the budgets, see where the
absolutely.
overs and unders are. What is the status of our county financially? How much, I mean, I don't wanna hear depreciations or.
No, I understand.
Where are we at with the county, cash money wise, not like,
if we can
that's what I'm saying. That's already,
but we only brought one.
Right, so you essentially,
Have it there, we can discuss it, and then we'll give you the copy.
Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
I would-
You have the copy.
I've got it here.
No, dásela a él, porque la lea.
Oh, you?
Yeah, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Es que no más hay un.
And I'm not being negative or anything on this, it's just that it's very hard to make decisions without having the information
duly
before
noted,
us.
duly noted.
And like I said,
Duly noted.
you all did your best, but sometimes the best is not good enough. Gotta do more than that. Anyway, let's do it.
We probably missed it.
Yeah, and we understand that, we missed it by 10 months.
2 years.
So 45
2
minutes
years.
is not your fault.
Nope.
Okay, insofar as if we may begin, the report is, this particular report is about 180 pages, and I've reviewed it, I've seen it, and overall, again, we rendered an unmodified opinion. We did receive, and it was a difficult situation at times, I guess, during the course of the year, as far as for the county's auditors to get us the information. So they tried as hard and diligently to provide copies of some of the special revenue funds and so on and so forth, until we finally received all the work and trial balances. Once we had all the work and trial balances, we were able to go ahead and initiate our audit full scale. We were doing partial processes, but nonetheless, as Mr. Gonzalez indicated, those two folks there within the county auditor's office worked very hard. I been around 25 years, Mr. Gonzalez, I've been around 40 years, auditing people all day long, and they're really bright kids. They really are an asset to the county. And moving forward, I will tell you, if you all give us that opportunity, God willing, the next audit for 2018, we are anticipating some significant improvement, both in the books, and in fact, we have a separate management letter or recommendations about other things that I think if you all are able to implement, will overall help the county. You got good governance. Now the county auditor's office is really coming together, and everybody knows this was our first year audit. Here, moving to second year, I think we could hit it running even harder and faster. We did devote substantial, every auditor we had at the office, a total of 8, half of which are CPAs, and here we are. So, needless to say, the opinion rendered on the countywide books of record for September 30th, 2017, judge and members of the commission, we were able to, once again, we're very proud to announce to the commission that we were able to render an unmodified opinion on the overall books. And this includes your general fund, your road and bridge funds, the precinct operations, all the special revenue funds, which include your federal grants, your state grants, and then the operations of debt service is where you pay down your bonded indebtedness, notes that you receive, whether they be short-term notes or long-term notes, and then the trusted agency. You all operate a significant number of trusted agency funds, from the county clerks to the district attorney's office, and substantial number of funds. So you have close to 70, 80 funds that you operate in which we audited. And needless to say, the report that I'm holding before you, so it is here, includes the audit of all of the operations. I'm going to refer to the main part of the report is going to be the balance sheet and the fund balances, and then of course the revenues and expenditures, and of course the budget actual comparison. We always present a budget actual comparison, Commissioner Garza. But I will just now proceed to look at the balance sheet, which is noted on page 14 of the report. We're presenting, the general fund is presenting a fund balance of $5,457,828. That compares to the prior year. In fact, that was an overall increase. That was an overall increase of $1,747,445. So that's a significant impact, a positive impact.
An increase.
An increase on the overall operations of the general fund. Your general fund is a fund, as we all know, but for the sake of the constituents that are in the audience today, that's the one that has the most discretion, but also that's where most of the monies are. And those are the funds that you use to improve and fix potholes, and just the overall improve everything that's available here within the county. Your public safety, all the sheriff's department and all those activities. But because of course public safety is very critical, and anything related to that is of utmost importance.
The fund balance, 1 million what?
The fund balance, we started the fund balance at about $3.7 million, Commissioner, and there was an overall increase of about $1,750,000. So the ending fund balance as audited is $457,828 within the general fund. So that is a positive note. Yes, sir. Now, within the another significant fund is your road and bridge fund. Your road and bridge fund, as of the end of last year, the beginning of the fiscal year that we audited, it had struggled. It had developed a deficit of $1.6 million. There was a very slight change to that. That was a slight decrease of approximately $58,000 in the overall operations of the road and bridge fund. So that brought we started the year with $1,619,000, ended the year with $1,677,000. So after the results of the operations and everything that was conducted and done during the course of the fiscal year, it ended up with about the same fund balance.
What do you contribute to the struggling?
I can answer that.
Okay, just,
We've had this problem all along, and this year, we finally made a change in it. The law allows for the Commissioners Court to have the flexibility of moving money from general to road and bridge.
Correct.
But we cannot move money from road and bridge to general. So therefore, our tax rate was always higher in the general.
Correct.
So we could get more money in general, and if needed, we would move it down to road and bridge.
Correct.
Versus the other way, because we couldn't move it up.
Correct.
So this has been going on since before my time. So, that's the reason road and bridge had struggled so much. Now, we've been catching up as we go, because we're also tied by state law as to how much we can increase.
Sure.
Now it's, I think, 7%, something like that. But we've been making a difference. Now, this year, we had money, or we budgeted some rainy day funds, and we put the bulk of it, about 90% of our rainy day funds, into the road and bridge. So hopefully that will make an impact, but it won't be until the 19th.
That's correct. That's consistent with some dialogue that we had with Mr. Boyd Carter, the county auditor, as to what was the county's plans for that, because yes, there was some concern about that, and we wanted to develop an understanding. And as you indicated, Judge, the tax levy is allocated primarily to the general fund. There's a little partial associated with a road and bridge. There's a partial that is for your bonded indebtedness, your debt service fund, and then a little bit for your drainage district operation,
Right.
which was very nominal, very light activity in the current fiscal year. So the next fund, the overall financial situation position, the debt service fund, again, we indicated that's to pay down all the bonds. Yes, sir, Judge.
The road and bridge, the fund balance, is that a negative fund balance? Or not?
Yes, sir, that is a negative fund balance, as I indicated,
So the
in brackets meaning negative. Yes, sir.
The combined fund balance between road and bridge and general, started off at about 2,
That's correct, sir. 2.1. Yes, sir.
2.1.
Right, sir.
And right now, what is the combined fund balance?
Well, you're looking at about 3.8.
3.8.
Yes, sir.
3.8.
Yes, sir. From that perspective, yes.
So overall, our fund balance increased by about 1/7.
That's correct.
But Mr. Garza, what Mr. Garza is asking is, what's the cash balance, or the cash position? I think that might.
The books.
Fund balance is including fixed assets and assets.
Well, the fund balance, no, let me clarify that. The fund balance includes receivables. We're under the modified accrual, under generally accepted accounting principles. It excludes, now there's a different presentation, like he had indicated, but that presentation is on the full accrual. That includes, as he indicated, is very correct, all the assets and all the liabilities on the presentation. And that's a full accrual presentation, much like a corporate entity. But at the fund level, it's a modified, how cities, that's why typically we like to report only at the fund level. But the fund level it's a hybrid, not quite cash, but not quite full accrual. It includes receivables, like taxes receivable, for example, and things of that nature, grants receivable.
Does not include real estate and buildings and anything?
No, that's correct. Now, as for the question as to cash, there's a statement of cash flows, but for the proprietary, but a cash flow statement is not presented for governmental. So as far as cash basis, it's going to be less than the 3.8. Typically, accrual basis includes accruing, setting up some receivables. I wouldn't go on record as to say what it is because I don't know. I would have to crunch that number. But at this point, we can tell you that the under normal fund balance is 3.8, and with cash being
3.6 cash balance.
no 3.8 under on fund balance under the normal reporting methodology, which is the modified accrual. Right, there is that would not be, that's not a number I have available, so I wouldn't go on record as to that.
That's in the 3.8.
That's in the
Right.
3 point. If they come in.
Yeah. If the receivables come in, then that's another.
That's what people owe, that's what people owe, you're including what people owe, that's what the.
Exactly.
that's plus what-
Exactly.
Whatever we have, plus whatever we expect to get.
But the point you were making just was that we had 1.7, no?
We increased it by.
Well, we increased.
Right, right.
What is it, what is it, what's the possibility of those receivables to come in? 80%, 70%?
We also, Commissioner, I'll point out that there is an allowance, there's an estimate included in the financial statements, because we know 100% are not going to come in. And, you know, as the receivable becomes an older receivable, after a year, it might be doubtful, 2 years, more doubtful, 3 years, very bleak.
Yeah.
So there is already an allowance for uncollectible, a provision for that.
Or we're talking about what are they?
Well, we have taxes receivables associated with grants. Grants receivables are highly likely, in fact, unless you have disallowed costs, those come in, but they come in.
Here's the amount of tax receivable.
Yes, the taxes receivables associated with this. Taxes receivables is 8.8 million. 8.8 million,
8.8 million?
yes.
Con los grants y todo.
No, this is just tax receivables.
Tax receipt.
That's tax receivable. It's a substantial amount. Subst-
About 90% of the budget for the year, we'll be collecting taxes from prior years in this current year.
Sí.
So basically, whatever you levy, you're probably gonna get about, say, 96, 95, 94%.
Not in Starr, not in Starr County.
Not here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, 85, 84 sometimes.
right.
Because of undivided porciones and other stuff that we.
But at this point in time, we have I would say, a surplus of last year's budget was 3 point something million.
No.
Well, again, if those monies come in, or if they came in, I don't know.
Correct. They're receivables. We can't speculate on what's going to happen in the future. That's the thing of an audit. It's based on historical information. But there's other positive things in this report. The windmill operations, a new source of revenue. And I don't know the extent of that. I have not looked at minutes beyond probably about 8 months past the fiscal year. But that looks like a promising venture as well. Other new kinds of revenue streams are always positive for the area.
Mr. Reyna, what's the cash on hand as of September 30th?
Yes, sir. Cash on hand as of September, we could indicate that. For the overall, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give you the number for all funds. All funds. Here's, for all funds, we're looking at aggregate, this is including, hold on here, this is the business type. Here we go. Governmental activities and the other activities, meaning the three other funds, the bridge, the gas, and the transfer station. Aggregate, well, let me break it down. 4,366,715. Again, 4,366,716 as it relates to the governmental funds, all the governmental funds. And then on the proprietary or business type activities, only 411,850, which gives us a total of, for countywide, 4,778,565. So $4.75 million as far as cash. There are investments in the general fund. Gives you a little bit of latitude. The investments are to the tune of $747,551. So between the two, you're looking at approximately $7.5 million. As far as cash and investments, the investments are very solvent type investments, CDs, certificates of deposit. So as of the end of the snapshot date, okay.
But hold on, that's not money that we have in the bank.
No,
Yeah, that's money
Investment.
So see, that's right, just, that's money that are what?
that, those are monies that are there, but we.
No, I know, we can't put a pen on them, I
Right,
understand that.
right.
But that's not.
Good point. Designated, some are restrictive in nature. Yes, sir.
How much money is available for the county to use for operations? How much surplus did we have? That's my.
unrestricted, in other words. Can you even estimate that at this point?
Well, that would be the fund balance, but the fund balance, again, is under the modified. I didn't want to get into all the complexities with technical jargon in the presentation, since when I made a comment earlier about that.
But you do have them there, right?
Yes, sir,
We'll find
yo,
out.
yes.
We'll
And you know,
read-
one of the things we always recommend, again, is it's a very exhaustive report. It's over 180 pages. We're available anytime to address any questions and even meet with you to discuss any particular aspect of the report. I can give you, if you'd like, I can go ahead and address the budget actual comparisons, or Judge, whatever.
It's promising, it looks good, yeah, like, if we look at the figures later on, they were.
Well, but let's look at what you asked. How does it compare with the budget?
Yes, page 42 of this report. Okay, I can tell you as far as the general fund operations, Judge and Commissioner Court, that as far as revenues are concerned, the county had budgeted about $16.5 million, $16.5 million. Now, the actual money realized, or money that was actually received, was only 15.4. So there was a negative variance of about $1 million. So revenues came in short by about $1 million. Now, as far as the expenditures are concerned,
But the
now
reason being, Judge, going back to the old budget or to that budget was because we didn't borrow the million that were budgeted, right?
No, this is before the meeting.
Oh,
we were, and specifically, Mr. Gonzalez just chimed in your property taxes. I guess the property taxes were budgeted a little too high, and consequently, they came in about $1 million less than had been anticipated. And you got to remember, too, that during the course of the fiscal year, as auditors, we always recommend that you visit your financial statements at least quarterly. And if you need to come before the commission and get approval for budget amendments, the budget should be a working document. If you know that your revenues aren't coming in, adjust your budget accordingly, and perhaps consider evaluating your expenditures as well.
I'll
Because
give credit to the judge. He's been telling us that, but sometimes we don't want to listen.
as far as
It's a working document.
But let me tell you about the expenditures. You all did a good job as far as the budget that was established. Page 63 of this report, which you all don't have. Page 63 report, the total amount budgeted was approximately $17.7 million. The county expended approximately $16.9 million. So there was a positive variance of about $814,000. So that's very much a positive. And that helped, like the judge indicated, that helped your overall financial position in comparing 2016 versus 2017. So it was the overall impact on the budget was, now you estimated revenues but did a good job on the actual in comparison to what had been allocated of $814,000.
Yeah, that year we had some really tough financial problems. In fact, I don't know if you all recall, but at the state of the county, I said that we would end up $1.5 million in the red, and that's approximately what we did. So, because of things that were happening during the year.
this case, I'm looking,
But we'll come out. In fact, we're already
Hombre. Sí, hombre.
that's correct. And those are, that's basically, again, the general fund, general fund is your main operating fund, and that's the one that you have most discretion in, but that's where all the resources are at. So you're making,
Can you, this was Commissioner asked about on the budget for the enterprise fund?
oh, yes, yes. Okay, okay. I appreciate that. Do you,
We might
oh,
ask you to come again.
we'd be delighted to. As part of the audit as well, gentlemen, we did render little separate schedule of recommendations. Page, well, it's basically saying, while we're trying to determine the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures, and we look at different areas, we identify some things that are focused on promoting efficiencies or identifying any things that we believe may bring some improvement to the county. And so with that said, we reduced to writing just a couple of items, and you'll note what they are as items 1, 2, and 3. You can read those, and if you have any questions, we can address them. But if you don't care to go into the details, they're practical recommendations that we're making, and we could discuss those at further length again at a future point in time, if you all desire. Yes, sir.
Report this budget this year.
Okay.
$40,000, because we were thinking about lease purchasing.
Yes, sir.
So we did budget about 40, 50,000, I don't recall the number, but it's
Okay.
around 40, 50,000 for software, so we are looking into it.
I think that'd be appropriate, and that'd be a very positive situation, which is gonna help. It's gonna help the county books of record be completed more timely, and the audits to be completed more timely as well.
Okay, on the second one, as far as 50,000 going out for bids on the procurement, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of these might be procurements that we did with a buy board, and we were under the impression that we think that it was.
Yes, sir. That's
approval by the buy board, we do not need to go out.
that's very true, and you're under the formal competitive procurement and state of Texas requirements. You're allowed to, once you achieve that level, that threshold 50,000, you can go through a formal competitive bid or other request for proposals, and there's a bunch of other options. And the purchasing cooperatives, as you indicated, buy board and other GSC type cooperatives that exist and allow you to purchase and procure through that modality. However, the specific purchase that we were looking at and that I tested specifically was lacking some documentation. It was lacking documentation.
Because, I'm very careful with that.
So that's the spirit of
I'm
the.
going to jail for that, so I'm very careful.
Yes, sir. We sir.
In that transaction, is it possible that it was a buy board, but just lacked the documentation to back it up?
We see as auditors, what we base our overall conclusions on is written documentation. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. That's a burden of proof, I guess, for purposes of auditors. So the nature of this, again, this is a recommendation. We're not coming in with a finding and saying that this was incorrect. We're saying that there was some support documentation that was lacking and was not available when we were auditing that specific
We'll be
area.
able to identify where it was, right? Or the judge will be able to.
Yes.
I guess the auditors know which.
Yes, and we certainly don't like to address any specific matters. We don't, absolutely. You bet, absolutely.
So we can take corrective measures.
Absolutely. That's the focus of these observations, to make sure you understand them, you realize them, and move forward and take corrective action, rectify the situation.
And on the third one, we don't have a policy, but we'll work on it.
Right. That was one. We actually went through all the purchase orders associated with everything that was picked up in fixed assets capitalization. In this case, was the improvements. And in some instances, it was very difficult to distinguish, are you throwing down a whole new road, new street? Are you repairing?
I remember getting a
Potholes
phone call from
Right.
Sam's office. We do a lot of patchwork.
Correct,
All
correct,
over the
correct.
222 miles of, we
Right.
do a lot of patchwork, and it takes a lot of budget.
Absolutely.
I mean,
But the
line
nature-
item anyway.
Right. The nature of the observation, sir, was not questioning the amount of work was doing. Of course, you got to meet the needs of the county. That's your all's jobs. But what we're saying is, we need to have a policy that establishes, okay, we did so much of it, we spent so much of it. Does it meet the criteria? Do we just expense it as repairs and maintenance, or do we pick it up as an improvement? So like when you throw down a whole large brand new street, that's going to be a brand new street. That's going to be a infrastructure and improvement. So that's all we're saying, to develop a policy so that everybody's on board and knows, okay, this is an improvement. This is just repairs and maintenance. That's
Yeah,
all we're
because
looking at.
When that issue came up, I don't know about the other commissioners, but when I was asked, you tend to get a little bit nervous. Now, I don't have documentation that I patched so many potholes in
Yes.
the streets, so many potholes.
Yeah, no,
It'd be impossible.
No, not at
But I don't know
all.
what you- I don't
Yes,
know
that
what
was
you
not
said.
the nature of the inquiry, Commissioner. No. So those are the three observations we formulated. And of course, the first one is an important one in many ways because, again, we see good things happening with good personnel that are really focused on doing the right thing and getting after it and working hard and working late. You know, I took their cell phone numbers for the weekends. We were working a couple of weekends straight. I don't know when we've taken the day off, but we will after a while. But they were right alongside us. It was a collaborative effort, and so moving forward, it's gonna be getting a lot better and a lot of improvement. And
We get tempted of
It will.
absolutely.
It will get better.
And we do also recommend, not on the report, as I indicated earlier, try to get a look at the financial statements from a perspective, kind of like reporting here, not just a financial report that shows the bills you're going to pay, kind of like where do we stand in relation to our fund balance, or you could have certain elements. In fact, we could maybe even help develop some of the key components that are focal so you all can make the decisions that you need to make, your budget actual comparison, and
And
so
I'll
on and so
speak
forth.
for myself. Maybe the reason my frustration about not getting a copy is because I'm not a CPA. I'm not even good at mathematics. But I can tell with a copy which department has to be reined in. Si están chiflados. We bring them in and make sure they stay within budget.
There's got to be the same expectations for all departments,
Well,
and
you know-
everybody has to adhere to their budgets, is the bottom line.
It's important to note that this is the 2016,
See,
2017.
yeah.
Yes.
We're already 2019, it's not gonna tell us very much about where we're
No,
at right now.
that's correct.
We're already,
Afuera.
it doesn't tell us it's historical.
El otro.
Yes, that's the case. And trying to narrow down that timeline between when the fiscal year ends, when the books are ready, and when the audit is conducted.
Well, hopefully, this year that we're in, I don't know if we might do it in time, but hopefully it won't.
We've gotten some very positive reports coming out of these two young folks, and so if you all are ready, we're ready to make a commitment if you all give us that opportunity, Judge.
Pues sí, ¿qué necesitamos?
That's all we have for today.
Well, thank you all very much. and
Okay.
I can't thank you enough.
I second the motion, Your Honor.
Motion second to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor, please,
Aye.
Opposed?